community, the ability to grow businesses, homegrown businesses, and allow them to be stronger.
Has there always been among Chattanooga investors a desire to invest locally, or is that something relatively new? Where do people get the desire in having their minds, I want to invest in someone locally as opposed to someone on the NASDAQ or the Wall Street? Where does that desire come from?
I think that desire's been there pretty much forever, David. You look at someone like us, the credit union. We've been around a little over 81 years, and a group of TBA employees came together to create our institution. So it was it really, in a way, was the original crowdfunding source. Credit unions were. So you bring a group of people together to help other people out, and that's really what this is all about. That's what the crowdfunding platform is about. It's about using today's technology and creating a connection between an entrepreneur and folks that want to support that business. The thing that we believe, and one of the things that we've really focused on is that if you invest in a local business, you're much more likely to use that local business, which creates a greater opportunity for their success, which spills over. If you look at the multiplier effect of the dollar, that investment in a local business gets multiplied over and over again, and again, creates a greater sense of community and makes the community stronger from a financial standpoint.
So there's an identification, you're suggesting, Tommy Nix of the Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union. There's a connection between my listener, who's the investor, and that business, and it's a geographical connection in a way. The nexus is across the land. It's in the land. It's proximity to the people who have that capital, who are now riding shotgun or using that money, and with the lenity and patience and the waiting of the investor, he's waiting for his return. And that he's more willing to do that, but the investor right now, if he's in Wall Street, he doesn't think that way at all. When he's dealing with Wall Street, he's thinking purely in abstractions, right? He's thinking in terms of return and what the pundits are saying about the prospects of the shares going up or down, or the dividend being raised or cut.
I don't know that I can certainly address what most investors look for, particularly those investing on Wall Street. Not my area of expertise. What I can focus on, though, is what the credit union is trying to do from a sense of the community. And we believe that the community as a whole can grow stronger through a cooperative effort like a credit union or like Growth Fountain and the platform that we've provided through them to allow investors and entrepreneurs to come together. Is there a value in investing in Wall Street? Possibly. Again, not my place to say. But I do believe that sense of community, that sense of bringing folks together, and making our community stronger, not just from a financial sense, but just from a sense of connection with each other, has a tremendous amount of value.
So that's kind of a civic or social benefit that you're describing.
It's civic and social, absolutely.
It could even be spiritual.
Absolutely. Depending upon your beliefs, it certainly can be a number of things. But certainly, particularly from a standpoint of the credit union, and the credit union being what we believe to be the community's financial institution, we want to support our local community. We serve a defined geographic area, 13 counties, and we want those 13 counties to do as well as they possibly can. That's not at the cost of anybody else. Absolutely. Believe in abundance and the opportunity for folks to grow throughout the world, and we certainly want that because that's good for all of us. But at this point, if we can build our community, we can make the world a better place.
Well, tell my listener what are the two main options for investing through the Growth Fountain platform on the credit union website. He has two main options for investing, let's say in a local company such as American Draft, which is a bar a bar being started here in Chattanooga. Tell a bit about that bar and what my listeners' options are if he wants to invest in that company or maybe some other that come your way.
Mm-hmm. Well, the choice is actually the entrepreneurs and how they decide to raise their money. They can do a strictly equity stake where you buy a percentage of ownership of the business. And your return is going to overall depend on how that business does and the value. There's no guarantee of return, obviously. Whenever you do equity, there's no guarantee of return. It's the prospect or the possibility of the return. The other option is a revenue share. So you essentially get a right to a piece of the revenue. And what Dakin has done at American Draft, Dakin Cranwell, he is raising funds where if you invest, you will get 2 times your investment back, up to 5%. Well, it's a 5% revenue share, and you will get up to 2 times your investment back through that revenue share.
Give an example of how that might work.
Well, an example would be if you invested $500 and Dakin began, and his business is not open yet. He's planning on opening on Black Friday. And he begins to generate revenue, then he will pay you back that $500 up to 2 times that $500.
So that means you earn 100% profit. You'll get back over time $1,000.
Correct.
Now, this is a very small amount. What is the largest amount that my listener could invest, and what are the restrictions on getting to that figure?
The restrictions it's really a formula. It's driven by your net worth and your income. So
explain it.
Okay. So generally, if your net worth is over, I believe it's $500,000, or your income is over $500,000, it's a derivative of that. Most investors will be able to invest about $2,500. Typically, those are going to be the average investments, and again, it's driven by the overall net worth and income of the investor.
All right, so let's hear the net worth and income figures again, because I didn't quite catch those.
All right, so it's $500,000 or over $100,000 a year. You can invest at one level. If it's less than $500,000 or $100,000 a year, it's at a lower level.
So if my net worth is $300,000, all told, what does that look like for me?
Typically, it'd be about the $2,500.
Okay. So again, it's a small investment, but you're counting, and the platform operators who get a 6% cut plus some fees, they're counting on small investors and many small investors giving this capital. So you're not getting large amounts from one person. You're getting small amounts from many people like my listener.
That's typical. The average investment is about $850. And what you do as an entrepreneur is you establish a range. Unlike other crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, where you pick a dollar amount and that's it, you make it or you don't. In the equity crowdfunding, you actually get to pick a range. And so Dakin has indicated $10,000 as his minimum investment. He's put a max of $107,000
for equity for owning shares.
Yes,
it would. So the minimum of $10,000.
Minimum of $10,000 with a $100 investment at the individual level, and he has already raised almost $17,000.
And now, of course, this is not guaranteed. This is not covered by the credit union's insurance guarantor of its deposits or anything like that. It is money put at risk, right?
Correct. It is an investment, very much like buying Coca-Cola stock or any company like that. You're putting that money at risk depending on how the company does. So no, it is not NCUA insured. It is not a product of the credit union. We are essentially providing the bridge for investors and entrepreneurs to come together and support and help each other.
Well, what is the benefit for this long-term, Tommy Nix? This is David Tulis. Thanks for joining us. We're talking with Tommy Nix of the Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union, which opened last week, a crowdfunding platform run by Growth Fountain. How does this program improve local economy? You mentioned the multiplier effect. Is the answer to that question in terms of the multiplier effect? How are we better off as we have more of these things developing, Tommy?
Well, I think there's the economic benefit, certainly. If Dakin is able to raise the amount of money that he needs to get his business off of the ground, then he will be able to employ people. Those individuals will then have revenue or income that they will be able to spend at other businesses. So it ties all of the community together. So where I might go and buy lunch at a particular restaurant, that helps support that restaurant. That restaurant and the employees of that restaurant are going to buy services and goods elsewhere. And so as you begin to make that investment and the dollar spreads throughout the community, you make all of the community better. So any business, any entrepreneur that can be successful creates a stronger, better economy, creates a stronger, better community, and helps the community of Chattanooga grow.
And the investor, such as my listener, has to be a patient investor. He has to realize that when he invests in American Draft Bar or other businesses that will come, that will emerge, that go through the kind of the training program, right? There is that requirement. That will be capital which is not liquid. He can't pick up the phone and say sell all shares to the broker. That's not possible. But you're counting on the credit union and the Growth Fountain Group are counting on that investor because he's local and the investee is local. You're counting on there being patience, waiting for profit to come, not demanding the capital right now, and not putting that burden on the business.
Absolutely.
Of having to pay back.
any business, early stage business, is going to take a while to grow and get their feet up under them. So any investor, any person that comes in and invests in an early stage business needs to understand a couple of things. One is they may never see a dime of their money back. Right? First and foremost, this is an investment. It's at risk, and you may never see a dime of your money back. Secondly, you need to understand if you go an equity play in this particular piece, if that's what the entrepreneur chooses, then it is an illiquid investment. It is not like Coca-Cola. You can't pick up your phone, call your broker, and sell it. There is not a secondary market for the investment in these early stage businesses at the moment. Doesn't mean that there might not be somewhere down the road.
But there might be, there could be a secondary market, say if there's a divorce or a death, or some family members could be given the asset, right? That's not really a secondary market, but that is the share, if you will, could pass to a widow. Right?
Oh, certainly. Any
or
of those,
a child.
Any of those types of life events have to be taken into account. Certainly could transfer ownership from one person to the other. But to be able to pick up the phone, call it, liquidate it, and get cash immediately, that option is not there at the moment. So you do have to be patient. You have to wait and allow the business to get its legs up under it, get settled before there's any exit strategy.
But the secondary market, Tommy Nix, could develop, right? That's what we're hoping for, is that there could be a secondary market in that kind of paper downstream. If there are other platforms that come in, other credit unions that take part in this, other maybe freestanding websites that are competitors with Growth Fountain in the Chattanooga area, then you can have, if there are enough people doing this, all in local business, there will, I would say, inevitably be a secondary market for those kinds of shares or collectibles.
Absolutely. I think that a secondary market will develop. It's not there at the moment. It could be a year from now. It could be 10 years from now before that develops. But certainly believe that is a distinct possibility.
Well, I want to not deprive my listener of an explanation about why credit unions are better than banks, and we're going to get to Jessica McCosh in just a minute. But the question I wanted to ask you before I let you go, Tommy Nix, is about what? Okay, yeah, accredited investors. The change in the statute from the 2012 Jobs Act that President Obama signed, very much in favor of local economy now. It changed. You didn't have to be an accredited investor. Just briefly, what is an accredited investor, and how did that whole statute restrict local economy and the capitalization of local economy? And then again, just give me another prediction about what can happen now that these platforms have arrived in Chattanooga.
Certainly. There had not been any real significant securities exchange or regulatory changes in the investment world since the 30s. So 2012, the Jobs Act was actually revolutionary, and it changed a number of things with regard to securities regulations. The biggest one is the sophisticated investor piece, where at the time you had to have like a net worth of $2.5 million. You had to have income of $250,000 verified over the last 2 years to be able to invest in these kinds of businesses. So that was the biggest change. It allowed for a broader platform of people to be able to support businesses.
Well, Tommy Nix, thank you so much for chatting with us. This is David Tulis. We are making the argument for local economy and the free market, and arguing that you should love your neighbor and buy local. And you can do that. I'd like to suggest that you can love your neighbor and invest local as well. And this is a kind of a new thing, as Tommy Nix from the Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union is explaining to us. Now, I want to ask Jessica McCosh from the credit union a little bit about the idea of a co-op. The credit union is a cooperative economic venture, the one founded by Tennessee Valley Authority workers back 80 years ago, nearly a century ago, had that in view. Jessica, what does a credit union offer? Explain what the co-op model is and how that works as a benefit to the members or owners, or let's say users, of the credit union.
Well, thank you so much for having us on today, David. We certainly appreciate that. And the credit union, as Tommy mentioned, was created back in 1936 by Chattanooga TVA employees, when 50 employees decided to pool their resources of only $500. In the very beginning days, we worked out of a desk drawer at TVA, but today we have grown to 17 branches throughout 13 counties in Southeast Tennessee and North Georgia. And anyone who works and lives within that area can come by and is eligible for membership within the credit union.
What does a membership imply?
You become a shareholder of the credit union. So with a opening deposit of $50 in your savings account, which we call a share account because it's called a share account because you become a shareholder of the credit union. And from there, we share, you're a stakeholder and we have democratic control. So as a member, you're eligible to vote at our annual meeting and make decisions about the credit union's growth.
Where does the profit at a credit union go? If you're a bank, the profit goes to the shareholders and the corporation. What about in your model?
With the
Jessica?
credit union model, it's shared among the members. So that's
How
in the
so?
form.
How do you
that's
know?
in the form of better rates and little to no fees.
Little to no fees. So you're saying that the credit unions in general and the Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union in particular have lower fees than banks, higher rates on deposits like CDs, for example.
Yes, that is exactly correct.
And how? What is the federal regulating agency overseeing your business?
It's the National Credit Union, NCUA.
So that's like FDIC for banks. There's a federal agency that guarantees the deposits. Is it up to $250,000 per
Yes, that
account?
is correct. Mm-hmm.
Per account. Well, okay, so there you go. That's the credit union model. Again, pooling local resources, having a local-centric perspective. And this is David Tulis. We're arguing for local economy, and I'm suggesting that if you are as worried about the national sector as I am, if you're seeing and reading about the instability in the equities and even in the credit markets in the national economy, that you consider a more liquid position. And for me, that's getting out of Wall Street in general, getting out of paper in general, and figuring out how to invest your money locally. My argument is invest in yourself. You, my listener, have been in your field long enough. You could very well start a consultancy or a service business in your own field. And you'll need capital for that. And if you have a plan and have some guidance and encouragement, you can start a business here in Chattanooga. And now, thanks to the Growth Fountain platform at the TVA Federal Credit Union, you can have capital, obtain local capital, looking out for your interests. Jessica McCosh, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
This is David Tulis. We're at 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD. That's digital HD4. And I argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local. Near is better than far, small than big, and simple than complex. And down in the footnotes with sans serif type. No serifs. Physical is better than abstract.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4.